Your health as an artist. Health as an artist. Now, this class concerns your health as an artist. You're not going to be any good to civilization dead. Your work may become more valuable, some say, but that's not real civilization. That's just the collection mongers who are only concerned with prices. You might do well and meet the right people, like Picasso did, or have the right pitch, like Dali did. Or you might be an incredible businessman, like Warhol, or a sincere, illustrative, representationalist painter, like Rockwell, or incredibly good at landing grants, like Pollock. But if you're like the rest of us, you're going to have your share of time facing poverty. It isn't so bad. It isn't so bad. You know, little slavery never hurt anybody. So you do it for yourself. It's known as freedom slavery. Anyway, with a little scientific know-how, you can get by. You need vitamins, minerals, protein, 50 grams a day for adult males, carbohydrates, oleo acids, those are fats, and a little coffee, tea, or wine wouldn't hurt either. First of all, remember that the establishment throws away enough food every day to feed the world. If you're convinced of your cause, you won't be ashamed to front up and ask around. Build up contacts. See if some will barter for your artwork, or see if you can get food for free until you're on your feet. Check restaurants, food stores, small businesses. The big places usually have only one place for everything, the compactor. But many establishments will sympathize and let you have some of the stuff they couldn't sell. They'll either tell you to come back after closing and they'll see, or they'll tell you no, sometimes accompanied with a lecture, or they'll tell you to wait and bring you something, or they may tell you to wait and then they go to the phone and call the cops. That's rare usually. Last time that happened to me, their establishment got hit with 100-year hail. Coincidence? Anyway, I wrote that's in one of my verses, A Bum on the Road. Anyway, so I'll have to rescue that song. It's in a songbook that's now peppered with scabies. Every time I touch it, I get an outbreak that lasts a year and a half. So I have to be careful. Right? It's been great to go for about 2 years and not have that kind of an itch. Anyway, now maybe you can't bring yourself to go that route. You've got to buy. Okay. Then you really must consider my advice. Intentionally or not, the establishment is very anti-creative and anti-artist. What may seem like an honest day's work will actually be the business community's chance to ream you of every ounce of energy and ability in your body. In most menial jobs, you won't have enough money left after rent, clothing, and transportation to afford adequate nutrition, though it may seem like it. All you'll be able to afford is a couple of cheap meals and a junk food snack on a break. You only have the illusion that you can eat what you want. You can only eat their junk food. I worked at the Mart, snagging 200 carts an hour. No problem. Yes, problem. Besides having a huge amount of money to spend on work clothes, because your clothes literally wore off your back. I had to get a new pair of shoes every month to keep from going crippled. But I found out that I needed 3,000 calories a day. And you weren't going to get those kind of calories out of the vending machines. Even if you did, you get chips that have hydrogenated oil. It's going to go right through you. I worked 5 years as a cart gatherer and stock boy, and I found out that besides a couple of decent meals, I couldn't afford the carbohydrates necessary to do the level of daily work the big retailers wanted out of me. Each day I burned over 3,000 calories. For the money they pay, you just can't afford it. They couldn't believe it when I sat down on a break and ate the only affordable carbohydrate I could find. A whole box, in one sitting, a whole box of Little Debbie's Swiss rolls. Thank you, Little Debbie! Love you, baby, love you. She's a lifesaver. I think it was a mint lifesaver. Anyway, hey, you could eat all the Swiss rolls in the whole box in 5 minutes. But that was only 2,000 calories. Yeah, it's like 2/3, right? But thanks, Little Debbie. You must have been thinking of me. You must have had compassion on the poor artists. Anyway, this artist, man, has spent almost a lifetime finding stuff out the hard way. That's why I'm writing this down. Got to go by rote, man. After the last decade of the 20th century, most of the big establishments had advanced knowledge of practical psychology and knew how to successfully manipulate personnel to get maximum productivity out of them. Isn't that fair? You might ask. Sure, if the employee doesn't have to do anything in his or her spare time but conk out in some chair and recuperate. I mean, if that's all you're going to do with your life, go for it, you know. But if you want to do artwork, you'll be in slow motion. They're going to call you slow-mo. I mean, I tried doing that. I ended up spending 7 months doing one painting. I could do a painting in 4 hours. That was a painting of the future. It would come true 20 years later. No, man. 7 months to do something that was dealing with the past. Okay, get back to this. Okay, you might get away with that as a kid. Yeah. But once past 35, I would say it's not advisable. Your best bet is to be self-employed, even if it means recycling aluminum cans or doing portraits in a mall at $10 each. You know. Another thing is that psych stuff, that psych stuff the big merchandisers are into, you know. The lectures and the scoldings in the back office, the coaching sessions. They trained us on that stuff in the Army about enduring interrogation by the enemy. I'm not kidding you. But in retailing, you're in their army, and they decide to shuffle you from the first to second shift at their pleasure. You know, there is evidence that psychological manipulation causes mental damage. They figure human beings, broken ones, make the best robots. You know, they're trying this robot industry. Japan's working on that, trying to make nice robots. Hey, maybe they're getting some progress, but up until now, at least, they figure the human beings make the best robots, especially broken ones. All that will destroy culture, will destroy your ability to paint, get creative, everything, man. You'd be nothing but a broken robot, rolling your butt gently down the smut. One thing, you know, I, in my traveling days, did was advertise for finances. I got a local map, you know. I find a blank spot on the map, maybe a little, Parks on maps are good blank areas, and I wrote in the space, I need a quarter. Actually, I need 25 with a C in the line through it. Okay? And I drew a circle around the statement. Don't stand in front of the person you approach. As they're walking towards you, stand to one side and say, "Excuse me," and point to the spot where you've written your ad. Okay? Hey, you know, I mean, I would say that's fair. The advertising industry does that every day. Only they put it on billboards. I need 25 million on the billboard. Oh, anything you say, broken bots to the rescue. Okay, all right, I need a quarter. To say, excuse me, you know, wait for them to read the spot. Hey, look, I'm only trying to help you out here, kid. You know, wait for them to read the spot, and usually an average of 2 of 10 people will give you a quarter. You can collect about $50 a day donations to your fund. Rejoice carries the horse's mouth. He had the fund, what was it? Blake. He was taking collection for the artist Blake. I think it was William Blake, I think. Blake used mostly gouache, I think, or watercolor. He did some outstandingly creative stuff, and he was poor. He and his wife were totally poor all their lives, you know, all of their existence. Didn't make no never mind to him. He got by. As I say, I can get by. The only problem I have is getting to by. So you can say it's for your fund. You know, you'll be able to get on your feet once you get a grip on marketing, art marketing. Usually takes about 3 years to get going and 7 years to really get going good. Even if you're just a mediocre artist, at least in the eyes of everybody else, you can make just as much money as I used to make, you know, on 2,000 Little Debbie calories at the Mart. Okay, let's read on, oh radar. Let's see, where are we? Okay. Headquarters, huh? Yep, about 50 a day. It may be a little less than what you might get in menial jobs, but at least when you've got enough to do a little painting, you can take a break from the fundraising. You know, that's what it's all about, baby. If you punched a time clock, you only get time off on their terms. You know, I remember once I managed to get 3 months from the Mart. This Mart had a really good policy of what's it called? Unpaid leave. That is, if they still wanted you when you said, I'm ready to come back, they'd take you right back. And that happened with me. But anyway, okay, you get time off only on their terms. They hate giving you more than 40 hours a week because, at least for now, that would be overtime. They'd lose some petty cash on you. They're so tight. So you'd get 2 days off at irregular intervals, and whatever is left after the 8 hours they work you randomly in the first or second shift, unless you work the third shift, the all-nighter. So things like the map, or like getting the cans, give you a chance to raise funds as you need them and paint the rest of the time until you start selling your work. Also, it gives you a chance to explain to those who ask what you're really doing. Somebody, you're out there, they say, well, what the heck, what are you doing, just bumming quarters? No, I'm an artist. Here's my card. I got my stuff on the net. I'm just trying to I'm trying to do a painting here. I need to get the rent out of the way. Oh, okay. That you might make contacts that way. Advertise for funds. Take a collection. Man, you're a good charity. They're investing in culture. Okay, let's read on. Moving right along. Yogi Bear. Okay. So someone may rise from the ranks to help you. You never know. Okay. Another route is to build up immaculate credit and a good portfolio and get accepted at a decent art school. Apply for loans. Blow about $100,000 on a bachelor's degree or even a master of fine arts degree, art, in 4 to 6 years, and then spend 15 more years paying it off as an art teacher somewhere. If you go that route, you might be better off with the BFA and then go to business school for a couple of years as an associate in business admin, because I'm telling you, man, business, business savvy is indispensable. It's like, okay, you'll need it. You'll need it trying to sell your work, as it's really a business, and you're going to be self-employed. You'll have to be up on self-employment and entrepreneurship. Heck, you could even be like Rembrandt, or these other guys. They had other people working with them. I guess Remy, some of the others. Well, especially guys like Van Eyck, Rubens. Rubens used to have his students do the. He did the cartoons. The students painted in the colors. In the old days, cartoon was like the outline, right? Like a coloring book. Okay. Oh, that's another thing. You can get, once you get going, a lot of art schools will allow you to have students as interns. That's cool. Okay. So you'll need to just, you got to be up on self-employment, entrepreneurship. You're going to have to know from storage, shipping, bookkeeping, and a whole lot of other crap. They even have, lifeless ways of calculating the value of the work of a new artist, which is materials cost plus labor times the square you won't believe this, times the square inches of the picture plane of the artwork and all that. Oh, I forgot to do this. Got to be careful. If I mash this button, kills the audio. So, all right. So, well, I thought I'd give you a little intro before we get in the health part, because I knew that you guys are probably, this may be the only video you're going to see, you know. Okay. So, you're going to have to learn some business stuff, unless someone else can help you. I hope they can. That business work wastes so much time. So does stretching canvas. Man. Anyway, about the food. Okay. You can't fool around on that one. You know, stay away from junk food. During the week, you need 5 different separate types of protein. And I don't mean one type is chicken burgers and another buffalo wings. That's only one type, that's chicken, okay? They're both chicken, moron. Also, there's a chance things are compounded by some complication, like you insist on vegetarianism or something, you know? Difficult, but doable. Yeah, it's doable. You know. How about tofu, rice, edible yeast, whole wheat bread, bananas? Yes, don't ban nana. Voila! Even if you're a vegan, a vegian, you know. Hey, you know, it's like food fetish stuff. Yeah, you know, edible yeast. Yeah. For the rest of us, by the way, you can't do yeast if you're vegan because that's little animals. You know, little yeasty beasties. All right. For the rest of us, you stand a better chance of weathering the aging effect of cosmic radiation if you eat some meat. Also, that's how you get the superior human intelligence, by the way. The trick is not only meat, but cooked meat, not rare either. I'll bet you, those lions would have been able to take up farming if they had cooked their meat first before they went ahead and had dinner. It's like, okay, it's a long story. Let's get back to the track here. Difficult but doable. Okay. Beef, chicken, fish, lamb, and goat. Stay away from the pork. It's murder on the digestion, though you probably don't think so. Same with shellfish and bottom fish, and any sort of carnivore or omnivore. Remember, for survival, anything goes, including insects, all but fuzzy caterpillars. Poisonous, Okay. Hobos used to eat worms and bugs. I imagine they still do. Cooked in a tin can, You know what, kid? You know what? Kid, I think you're going to make it. Soy stuff is just about the best bargain. Well, now, of course, since they have Roundup ready soybeans that every farmer in the universe has to buy first, it might have gone up in price. So I was an artist back in the days when they thought soybeans was pig food. Man, I had it made. We ate soybeans. We were able to feed 4 adult male artists on $10 a month in California, in Oakland, California, in 1970. Could you believe that? Yep. And we even made it taste pretty good when we got bay leaves and something else up in Tilden Park. We used to go up there on the weekends. Sage, bay leaves and sage. Soybeans and bay leaves and sage. Man, that was so cool. It was rough, but I got some stuff done. I got one painting that I did there. You can see it just across the bay there. It's a painting of the Bacardi Rum Distillery. I got here 40 years later. It's valid, buddy. Hey, you know, if people don't buy your artwork, who cares, man? It has more functionality than just making money. I mean, if you just worried about making money, you'd be painting landscapes all your life. Inside joke. You'll get it later. Okay. Okay. So you can eat bugs, man. Yeah. Eat bugs, you know. No, not that. Not the microphone. Wrong bug. Okay, so okay. Soy stuff, well, that was the best. I hope it still is now. It was even cheaper back in my early days in the 70s when they thought it was only good for pigs. Just be ready to have a good ventilation system in the studio, because if you're on a bean diet, you're going to be doing a lot of poopers. You're going to be contributing methane to the global warming here. My mama used to tell me that if you burped, you gave off blue balloons, but if you did any poopers, then others would plainly see purple balloons. Worked for me, man. I became retentive, at least with poopers. I don't know if politically correct to say fart. Anyway, for years I held it in, which you shouldn't do. Hey, don't worry. If your studio is stinky enough, maybe it'll keep those lousy, obnoxious, bourgeois establishmentarianists out of there, you know. The fastest way to waste your time is to mess around with a bunch of plastic hippies trying to be cool. Get rid of them, man. They're always trying to bug artists. Yeah, that was a problem with the hippie generation. They weren't artists. They were just sitting around imitating what the artists were doing just to survive. They thought it was cool, man. Oh, excuse me, I have to pick up unless that's junk call. Junk call. Looney Tune here. Okay. Hey, I'll put it up in the attic. It'd be a lunatic. Yes, that's the loon. Nice call, huh? You can get that. Just go ahead and they have them ringtones, you know. Natural sounds. Okay. So, if you look around, maybe you have some sort of co-op type food station near you where you can buy your soy. Just remember about soy is incomplete protein. You know, you need to supplement it with lysine, the name of the protein it lacks. You can get that from the whole wheat, or better yet, wheat germ. No kid, man. Soybeans and wheat germ. You got it made there. Got to keep your wheat germ in the fridge, though. If you got, you know, like, it could be without fridge, you know. They have a sort of textured soy product out there. I forget what it's called, an abbreviation of 3 letters. TTT, something. I think high protein concentrate, HPC or something like that. That's about the easiest way to use soy. Makes a good topping as a spaghetti sauce if boiled. We used to eat that stuff in Spain. Got it once a week from trips into neighboring Portugal. Now, one good thing about the Portuguese government there, they had their affordable food for the peasants. Man, they must have been friends with that little Debbie. Anyway, don't waste your time. Don't waste your time with dog food, man. I mean, back in the 70s, a lot of elderly used to resort to dog food. Don't waste your time with it. It's a hustle. You shouldn't even feed it to your dog if you got one. If you got one, you can't afford a dog. You need to find it a good home. You know, but don't waste your time with dog food. It's a hustle. I found that if I tried to get 50 grams of Pro out of one sack of the stuff, I'd be eating up half the food in the bag a day. If you've got a dog, it's cheaper feeding it hamburger. No kidding. I'm not kidding you. This soy protein stuff will work too. Mixed with a bit of meat for Fido. You know, stretch it. Open the window, because it's going to get stinky. Maybe things have changed since I've made my calculation, but knowing those guys, they've got too much overhead anyway. Shoot, I could do a whole darn cookbook on this. Maybe later. That's a good idea to get, I'll do some cooking vids, you know. Starving artist cooking vid. Pâté de foie gras et canard à l'orange. How'd you do that on your budget? Oh man, it just came out of the sky. Whack, whack, whack. Here comes another one. Okay. Oh. Poof! There's a quack in the armory. Okay. Just remember, numbers count. Okay. You need to calculate it, at least 50 grams of protein a day to be safe. Men a little more, women a little less. I would say 65 would be safer. You got to remember that, you know, if you're sedentary, your body can only absorb about 35 grams at one meal. So you got to have, you know, that 3 meals a day thing isn't a bad idea. But if you have 2 meals, and hey, not the hearty breakfast, man, not the, when you have a long time where you haven't eaten for like hours between breakfast and dinner and breakfast, you're going to have something light. I'll get into that later. Okay. Okay, so 65 grams of protein a day would be safer, because no one knows for sure. Your body needs 8 protein critters called amino acids. Not just any. And I never learned the names. But if food has all 8, it is said to be complete protein. Your body then makes all the rest of the amino acids it needs from the 8. It's like, for example, your cells have a way of bringing water into the cell past the membrane with a protein called aquaporin. It took them hours to learn to get the name for that, aquaporin. So, okay. Your body makes all the rest of the amino acid it needs from the 8. If you miscalculate, look in the mirror. Protein deficiency causes small vessels in your cheeks to burst, you see. And if you see that, buddy, you better be hustling up some grub. Swallow your pride and get the map. Wait, it gets better. You also need the basic oleo acids as well. The protein gets in the cell. The protein goes in the cell, and the oleo makes the cell wall. I think I can sort of like illustrate that. Protein goes in the cell, like the air in this Ziploc, and the oleo makes the cell wall. You see, the actual wall itself, like this bag, is made from petroleum oil. See, hydrocarbon. Your cell wall of your cells of your body is made from oil. Edible oils, oleo acids. I told you, it gets better. It's not over yet, buddy. So, the oleo makes the cell wall kind of like a sort of plastic-like substance. If you are oleo deficient, there are ways to tell. It's like the mirror test for protein. If you are oleo deficient, your cells will leak. And the symptom of that is fatigue. You just try to be painting without your oils, man. And I'm not talking about oil paint. You better get up oily in the morning and do some cooking. Okay. So the symptom is of that is fatigue. Overly fatigued. Inordinately fatigued. Inordinately tired all the time. Then, forget it. You couldn't lift a brush. Quite a few of the Impressionists died of malnutrition. Did you know that? It gets you in your 40s. Just when you're beginning to come up with some really good artwork. So be wise and get the nutrition you need. Don't be an ass. Get out there and beg if you don't have any money. They're throwing away enough food to feed the world. Unless that changes overnight. Your body makes oleo acids, like the protein amino acids, from a few basic ingredients. I wish I knew more about this, but, you know, Google Adele Davis and oleo acids, because Adele Davis knew, and she wrote it down in a few books and started a whole food movement. Get a copy of her book, Eating Right to Keep Fit, or something like that. No, maybe it's Let's Eat Right instead of Eating Right. She was always a let's type of person. A great lady, you know. You must, you know, I tell you, must have worked, huh? Anyway, you can get the oleos from what I call the big three, or the Thrixo. I got this much from her book, only because Sonia quoted it to me at the Staten Island Commune back in the 70s. Equal parts of corn oil, peanut oil, and safflower oil. If you're allergic to peanuts, ask a nutritionist or whatchamacallit. One really good recipe is to mix the Thrixo gently in a plastic mustard squirter and slick up some vegetables in a paper bowl. Toss in the microwave on 10 for 8 minutes and eat with a plastic spoon. Put a little spinach on top of the veg for your eyes. That's lutein. Now, you know, if they put hydrogen in the oil, it'll go right through you. They call that hydrogenating, or partially hydrogenated. Best way around that then is to go straight for the big time. Just eat peanuts, preferably with sea salt on them, because the sea salt is going to give you your trace minerals. They sell safflower kernels, which are sunflower kernels, and you can eat them even though they don't taste all that good, but I mean, if you're hungry, they will taste real good. And then the next thing is corn. So you get your corn on the cob going, or whatever you can. Be sure to chew it well, because it'll go right through you as well. It's all wrapped up, and it'll go in one end and out the other if you swallow it whole. So That's what probably, that was the survival technique of the maize back in the day. Okay. That way you're not going to get hydrogen mixed in. They're not going to hydrogenate that. They can't. I hope not. We'll see. They can do anything eventually. Okay, so you got your Thrixo going. Don't forget your lutein in the spinach. Now, you've got to count your calories. You may be skinny enough if you're a poor artist to think you don't have to worry about that, but think again. If you don't have enough energy, it'll really hold you back. You'll find yourself struggling for every brushstroke, and it might even ruin your artwork. The safest way is to estimate a little high until you start to get chubby. It's a balance between activity and the sedentary lifestyle of sitting at an easel all day, but as an artist, you may find yourself very active, to say the least. You really need to get outside for an hour a day anyhow, because staying indoors can mess up your respiratory system and even lead to TB. The outside air helps disinfect the lungs and keep them clean. You need complex carbohydrates. Grits is an excellent example of this. Tastes good with a pat of butter. Oh, I really recommend a good glass of wine each night. The phenols in the red wine control cholesterol. The proper ration is also good for the heart unless you overdo it. Get the ordinary wine in your area. Yeah, it's got to be red wine, remember. Red wine, ordinary red wine in your area. Hopefully, if you're in a civilized country like Australia, where they sell ordinary wine in a 5-liter box at affordable prices. If not, you'll have to wing it. And you may even be able to make it yourself out of grape juice. If you have the space, you can make enough for your needs on your own. If you don't drink alcohol, in one of those, you can get almost the same results concerning cholesterol control from dark grape juice. Remember, it's got to be not green or clear, but it has to be purple grape juice. Hey, that's clear grape juice. Yes, but I pulled it in with my rope, and that's purple. Oh, man. Okay. All right. If you have migraines, stay away from the red wine. Use white wine and then have purple grape juice some other time of the day. Just don't overdo it. Ration yourself. Excesses in both alcohol and carbohydrates are unwisely resorted to by those such as the poor who might be subject to depression. I have an antidote for depression. If you get depressed, get colored, blinking Christmas lights. The smaller the better. And look at them in a dark room. That's it. That's the antidote. That's the antidote. Stay away from rock and roll. If you must listen to music, go for light jazz or mellow folk or even classical, except for things like Wagner. The best thing is to learn an instrument and make your own music. You can, that actually helps you increase your IQ if you play an instrument. Then you can even get some change by ducking outside for a while and doing some street performing. Put your hat on the cement for a couple of hours. Beat-driven music like rock actually damages brain tissue. Kind of like the demise of Hamlet's dad, poisoned in the ear. Your best bet is actual random sound like the surf or the wind or in the pine boughs. Other carbies are rice and pasta. Either calculate or eat hearty. If you start getting chubby, you can safely skip a meal, safely skip a day each week and take an eating vacation. You'd be surprised how much you can get done if you don't have to do the food thing for a day, and remember the exercise. I think the kidneys and aerobics act like a great eraser to wipe away the negative emotions out of the bloodstream. Had somebody who unduly criticized your work, some plastic hippie who put you down because they want to look hip in the eyes of people around them. Work out a little bit. Your kidneys will erase the emotions. You say, whatever, man, be an asshole. Okay, so that's all you need is a cacophony of all sorts of emotions zinging past your brain, man. You had enough problem with the carbs and everything. Now here goes the cacophony. You might, you got to be careful. You might cut an ear next time you shave or something, Remember what happened to Vincent. He was a wonderful person, and many treated him like crap. They'll do that to you if you're poor. They don't care. To them, if you're less fortunate and all that, it's a chance for them to feel superior to you, and they'll insult you and use humiliation on you. You can take all that so much better if you exercise. If nothing else, find some steps outside and do about 10 reps a day or so. Put some sand in a small cardboard box and carry it around the block. People think you got a job somewhere. They probably stop gossiping about you. Oh no, I saw Jack. He's working. Don't worry. Got some job, delivery boy. Okay. It does pay to keep the crows away. Why? Look at what happened to Vincent. Vincent van Gogh. Get the holographic gift wrap they sell at the mart around the holidays and fly a few strips of it outside, wherever it reflects the sunlight. If nothing else, aluminum foil will do. They hate bright bursts of light. It's bad enough having certain people hassle you. You don't need birds coming in from all over the landscape. And if you're stuck with only enough for meals and you get hungry between them, chomp some brewer's yeast and drink some water. It actually suppresses the appetite and is a handy source of excellent protein. So I got that down, man. I'll show you how to do that. That's the yeast I could do. Brewer's yeast. Glass of water. A little sugar in the bottom of my coffee cup, but I want you to try to pour from high up, just as long as you don't get any on your keyboard, because that puts oxygen in the cold water. It makes it taste better and also helps to purify it a little bit. So, okay, I got my brewer's yeast, and to give you almost the entire gamut of the B vitamins you need too. This is your natural stress tab. Brewer's yeast, Has 6 of these tablets like this will even give me 3 grams of protein. 10 calories too. Moo. No, those are cow loweries. Oh yeah, those are cow hireries. You're hired. Okay. And look at protein. There it is. 2 grams. So here I can chomp one. Now it's an art to chomping brewer's yeast. If you're too slow, it's alive, so it'll stick to your teeth. Best thing is to chomp it right up front teeth. Use your saliva, kind of make a brewer's yeast soup. It is so yummy. Get used to that nice, mellow, nutty flavor. And it has a bitter aftertaste, but that tastes like beer. Okay, the other one you can take like this. Now, hey, if you're a kid from the middle class, you're used to, you grew up in a middle class family, you had 3 squares a day, find yourself at art school. Best thing is also this stuff will take away your appetite, and it because you have little hairs in your stomach, hungry hairs, and this assuages them. But also that'll help shrink your stomach then. So man, that's all it takes, and about just a little bit of time and later, take your mind off the chow. You won't have to worry. You won't be, you know, and then you can say chow to the chow and just get down to business doing that painting. Become a paint in the what next? Okay. Now we're making some ground here, so let's see. Alright. That's a little tip on the brewer's yeast. Okay. Oh, that's pretty nice. That's actually the White Pass in Alaska. So I've got that going up there because a lot of the folks today have like, it's a new kind of brain set people have. So you got to have some like a laptop up, or else people can't stand to listen to like lectures and stuff. So we're doing it this way, man. It's like, okay, it's like reminds me of the, okay, let's go on with this. Okay. And remember the good old beatnik technique of espresso, man, espresso. Kitchen stores and other stores will sell the Italian screwable. Come on, little Italy. What are you doing? Hiding out on me, man. Okay. See, I have a Signature Classics personal espresso machine, but the Italians came up with this thing. It's really great. Okay. And you can pick this up for your espresso. Now, they found out people have coffee problems. Hello? Hello? I'm the talking coffee pot. Don't listen to that guy next to me. He's not moving his lips. Oh, my finger! You got my finger! Get that back! No, he's a good coffee pot. Hello there, everybody. Oh, Joe, what's your name? Okay, so every now and then you gotta get your kitchen knife and take the little rubber band here and just clean it off. This is actually brand new. The guy never used it. Did a couple of times. Okay, it's your coffee basket. Put that in. Press the coffee gently. Fill this with water, but don't fill above this line. You see right here? This is your emergency. Poo! So the water goes below that line. You'll have a little. Okay. So you can make your espresso like this, right on the stove. You can express yourself. They found out that actually coffee, you really don't need an espresso, but coffee will help you, you know, they used to think ginkgo biloba did that. Maybe it does, but I don't know, but coffee is definitely a help to keep your mind going. And especially, you know, finally when you get recognized and your stuff really starts to sell, you're going to be in your late 50s probably, like Giacometti and those other guys, you know. Man, they'll ask you to crank. You got to remember what the heck you did. I wonder what Chagall did when he was painting those ceilings at the Metropolitan Opera in New York. But anyway, okay, so you get one of those unscrewable espresso gizmos, you know, that go right on the hot plate for about $12, you know. After you get done with the rabbit skin glue for sizing the canvases, you can toss the gizmo on the coils, and in minutes, black gold, man, black gold. Kills any appetite there is. You know, just don't overdo it. And coffee does hurt your sleep, so the last cup, 6 hours before bedtime, use a demi-tasse or a tiny cup. You won't need whitener, just sugar, if you're fussy like me, like candy coffee. But, you know, if you get the really good stuff, you know, I just got done with Sumatra so I got this new bag of Guatemala. I've already decanted it into my my tins here, recycled from cheap cookies from the Scandinavian area. Talk about memory problems. Got to sharpen my brain. Got to go to the hardware store, get a memory board. So this one I was doing pedicab in Skagway, which is native Tlingit Shkolkaway, where the river meets the sea in the wind, roughed up in the wind. And I just did that with my you know, Canon Sure Shot as I rode down the road, and put 3 cylinders up using After Effects and Adobe. Anyway, so okay, don't get into smoking. Do not. It costs too much, ruins your health, and nicotine breaks your concentration. You know, you'll end up in a concentration cramp. You know. So use the patch, you know, and ditch the habit while you can. You'll cheapen your creativity if you smoke. Even if it may be a crutch, forget it. Rise and walk. The establishment is going to throw enough crap at you without you adding to it by crippling yourself. Don't be an idiot. And remember, if you're painting, don't eat till you wash your hands. A lot of paint pigment is poisonous. The slow type. You may say, I'm okay. Slow, man. You just wait, baby. Hey, you want to keep on trucking in your 50s, don't you? If you get heartburn, eat an apple. If you're poor, eat a quarter of an apple per incident. Chew each bite 5 times and swallow only the juice, and chew the same mouthful again. Okay? So here's the quarters, see? I've been working on this one. Apples. Okay. Now, I've worked it down for not 5 times, but then I worked it down to 3 and then 1. You go like this. Okay. Chew once, that's all. And drink the juice. Chew once, drink the juice. Keep the pulp in your mouth. Chew once. and swallow that juice. Here's the 3 chews. Still have a pulp. To the 3 chews in 1 bite, you should be able to get about 5 series going. You can already feel the wonderful effect. Nobody knows what the heck it is. Apple. They think, oh, mostly water. Guys are idiots. There's all kinds of things in there. Okay. So, I guess I might call it phytonutrients or something. Even if science does enough work for 1,000 years, they still won't find out. There's too many unknowns to food. It's not just what you know, it's what you don't know. So, that's going to help you get around that heartburn. You know, you can spit out the tiny bits that don't go down. Like that. Or, when you got the water, see? Remember, you got to go through water. Anybody south of Tennessee, draw a line around the world, northern hemisphere, south of Tennessee, you're going to get kidney stones. You're going to get gallstones. Drink water. Even, you know, the secret is drink it when you're not thirsty. Remember, what are you talking about? Okay. Okay, now swallow that. Pace the floor until you burp. I learned another one. It's like rock back and forth, and then the air will come up. You're going to be all right. Cheer up. Papa Paul is online. I'm going to take care of you. Let's see. You'll need your multivitamins with your meal. Use time release vitamin C. You got that multivitamin pill. Good idea is to break it in half. My friend Chet taught me that. A lot of times that pill will end up not really dissolving completely, especially if you use cheap ones. If you start to catch cold or any other virus that hits the nose first, well, I was about to say spray your nose with vodka. That worked, but then a nurse explained to me you're liable to destroy your mucous membranes if you do that. So if you read this article, don't do the vodka thing. That was a little burp. I don't have heartburn right now, and I'm getting to the point where I can even get heartburn from a cup of coffee. So it's coffee with apple. So yeah, so ignore this thing about the nose. It does work though if you get desperate, but you're gonna have I think the membrane recovers, but it takes like years. Okay, the big thing is the minerals. I use some stuff derived from shale deposits in Utah. Now, they don't make it anymore, but hey, good old University of Hawaii. Those guys are right on the ball. They were trying to find out how to generate electricity using the extreme cold of deep water with the warmth of the top. The contrast of temperature helps generate electricity. They're still working on that, but while they were doing that, they found something in between the two layers, rich, mineral-rich plant life, and this is, they marketed that as Kona Gold, and that's how you get your trace minerals. Of course, I would also recommend sea salt, and you know, farm fish, that might be okay for protein, but things like salmon that does a lot of deep water, out there in the ocean. Anyway, so But, you know, that shale of Utah does work. It's got a lot of stuff in it, though. You have to be careful. It's like sometimes you get a little oil in there and it's to get up oily in the morning. Minerals might help you get there, okay? I'm putting it this way. You might not know it. The genetic life of the human being is 125 years. And as I said, minerals might help you get there. The Tales of the Abominable Snowman. They're actually, really credible, you know. They might have been people who lived in mountainous regions where they drank water from glacial deposits in which they got all the minerals needed for the genetic code to stay resilient enough. It's not what we know. It's what we don't know. We don't know really how many minerals the body needs. That's why I think the best place to work is in the mountains, in the mountainous areas near glacial deposits. Hey, if you're a representationalist, you've got some great landscapes up there. Say hi to Bigfoot for me, will ya?